Welcome to another episode of Women Investing in Women. My co-host Robin and I are delighted week after week to bring to you women from different walks of life, women who are creating impact in the world in so many different ways. And as we look at a world where it is shrinking the role of women and trying to pigeonhole women in certain spaces because they want to, the powers that maybe want to get back to the way the world was, we have an imperative to work together as women, investing in each other, lifting each other up, amplifying each other's voices, and supporting each other so that we can each and together live and thrive. And you're going to love our guest today. So, Robin, take it away.
All right. I am so very excited to introduce my wonderful friend, Cindy McKee. I actually met her way back in 2018 at a 2-week training that we were together at up in Canada, and just fell in love with her and her husband, Bob. And at the time they were coaching couples. And now they're continuing to do that a little bit, but also doing other things. But what caught my attention is Cindy contributing to a book called Ageless Voices, focusing on women in middle age, women in older age. And I loved the title. And as soon as I saw the title, I said, oh my gosh, we have to have Cindy on. So Cindy, tell us how this the whole notion of ageless voices and the notion of focusing on middle age or older women, how you became involved in that.
Oh, thank you for having me. I was actually contacted by the person who spearheaded the whole project, Ageless Voices. Her name is Joyanne Gold. Joyanne is 81, if I have that right. I think she's 81, turning 82. And Joyanne has a twin sister, Joyce. Actually, they've been very active their whole lives. Joyanne herself had what many of us do is this kind of negative view of aging. And somewhere, I believe it was when she'll correct me, but I think it was just literally when she was like 70, all of a sudden she made a decision one day that that was not how she was going to live and lead her life. And so she became inspired to start this project, and she started to reach out to people. I actually don't know how she found me, but she reached out to me, and I'm very delighted that she did, and asked us there's 37 women total, including her, to contribute 1 to 3 chapters. I did 3 myself, to this book, to create this project, this idea that rather than shrinking as we get into 60 and older, that we actually use our voices. We use our voices to lift ourselves up, to lift other women up, to become whoever we want to be at whatever age. There's some wonderful stories in the book of people and their women in their 90s doing remarkable things. So it's inspiring. It's inspiring to be part of.
That is so beautiful to hear. And I truly appreciate you talking about the need not to shrink to fit in somewhere, but to live in our power.
Exactly.
And what are some of the reasons why women feel they should shrink? And how are you helping them stop that and then show up as a whole person in the total glory of the power they inherently have? Because that's where the true beauty of every woman is.
Yeah, absolutely, Cass. Absolutely. I know it's societal. From the time we're very young girls, we're making fun of older people, whether we're boys or girls. We're, guilty, laughing about something, or imitating older people. You have to look youthful, have to look like you're 20. Physically, you have to act like you're 20. The whole notion that youth is valuable and older age isn't, I think creates this whole container for women to just do that word, but I use shrinking. I also use the word spiraling down into less than what they truly are. And when they get to a certain age, they've probably left careers, many of them. Some have left relationships. Certainly their children are grown and flown. And how they identified themselves for their whole adult lives has changed. And so they get to this point, it's sort of now what? And there's not a society that says, yes, we value you. We want to hear from you. We know you have a lot to share and to contribute. And sort of my mission, I know Joyanne's mission, is to change that narrative. Robin, you're muted. Yep.
This is so exciting to hear. And as I was listening to you, the thought that was coming to mind was the discrepancy between men getting older and women getting older. And a man gets gray hair, he gets a few wrinkles, he looks more wise and more reputable. In fact, I have a friend who, a male friend who had his own company, and he was dealing with a lot of older men. He was younger. He was dealing with a lot of older men. And he started going gray a little bit prematurely. And he said that when he started getting a little bit of gray around his temples, that his business became even better. Like people would listen to him more. And yet if a woman starts going gray and starts getting, some wrinkles, it's like she's, just old and decrepit. Put her in the corner. And so how do you deal with this stereotype of men aging and being more respected and having more gravitas and emphasis, but women aging and thinking they have less to contribute? How do you deal with that stereotype?
For me, it's a lot around languaging. I hear a lot of women use the word "I'm old." And I'm really quick to nip that in the bud. I say I will never, ever say I'm old. I will say I'm older, which means I'm older than I was yesterday. And I think it's up to us to encourage to ourselves, for sure, by example, and to encourage other women to use their voices, to realize that they have all the power that they had when they were in their 30s or 40s or 50s, that it hasn't gone away, that spark is still in there. Even if they're not feeling quite as vibrant physically as they may have in their 20s and 30s, that doesn't mean they still can't grow and improve and use their voices to serve others and certainly themselves in the process.
I am glad to hear you say that. And a lot of this is cultural too, right? In some cultures, especially the ones that are matriarchal, the woman remains the head of the household and everything is centered around the matriarch of the family. Italians do this, right? Even when you watch Italian mob movies, it doesn't matter what big of a mob boss he is. When they go home, mama is in charge, right? So there are Eastern and European cultures, Asian and European cultures that don't put a woman through this lens, and yet there are other cultures that do. So how can we cross-pollinate, especially in a society like US, we're a melting pot. We have different lived examples.
Yeah, I think it's up to us to spotlight those examples, to showcase them, to just keep shining that light on them and saying, here we are. We do have a lot to offer. And it's a little bit is kind of like fight back. We have to take a stand for who we are and encourage. I think the biggest thing is encouraging other women not to go down, not to shrink, not to spiral down, to keep opening up and to have something to live for, to grow for, that we should never stop growing through our entire lives, that we're in that growth challenge mode for ourselves. That's what motivates us, that scares us just a little bit, which is a good thing. And to just keep throwing out those goals all the time, that I think that's what will light up women and encourage them to really, they can rewrite their life at this point. They've got a whole new chapter ahead of them. It can be really exciting to put, as I say, a new narrative on it, that this can be an exciting time, not a diminishing time.
I'm really loving that. You know, it can you can make a new chapter, start a new, do something new, do something different. And even though it's scary, just go ahead and reach out. You know, I like to talk to our guests about some of the challenges that they have faced, and especially in writing a book. And I know you have a few more books tucked away in the back of your mind. But what were some of the challenges in writing these chapters, in pulling this together, in the context of these, you know, ageless voices? And how did you deal with those, both external challenges and internal challenges that you had to deal with?
For me, in writing this book, being part of Ageless Voices, I had a wonderful container. We met on a regular basis on Zoom calls and talked about the project. Interestingly enough, though, of us 37 women, none of us had read each other's stories until the book was published, which was really fun. You know, and I actually haven't even gotten through all of them myself yet, because I really savor them. So that was really, so we had this container that kind of helped us. For me personally, this is my own input, not just adult women, ADHD, who are all being diagnosed now at later ages. It's a really interesting study in aging, that it's for women, especially like over 50, to be diagnosed now is really pretty amazing. I was diagnosed a long, long time ago, so it's something I've always dealt with. And so for me, deadlines are the best thing in the world. Is all I will personally just think and think and think and think and think about it and not actually do it. And then when I actually have to do it, I write really, really fast. And this other, I'll talk about in a minute, this other book that I'm involved in, and another writing coach also said to me, writing fast is the best thing because you get out of the way. You don't stop to think about it, and you just put stuff on the paper. You don't edit. You just write and write and write. And that really worked. I was so relieved to hear that, because I'm not someone who is just naturally able to do the structured outline and then work off of that. I just have to put pen to paper, and then the ideas just flow and come out. And later I can reorganize them if I need to and change things up.
That is interesting. You're highlighting different people like to write differently.
Yeah.
I am natured to want to actually put it in a diagram.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I talk through my diagram, right? So we all think differently. When you go through the writing process and you're working with other women, how do you find the collaborative process? And how do women keep each other engaged and involved, at the same time giving them the space to do what they need to do? Because there is that fine waltzing, right? Mm-hmm. How do you successfully make that waltz happen without controlling and without wanting to know all the details? Because I love the fact that you said nobody read the other person's story till the book was published, but everybody worked together.
Exactly. I think in the meetings we had, in the Zoom meetings where we got together, which was over the process of about a year and a half, I think, from start to finish, we met many Tuesdays. Actually, we're still getting together to sort of promote the whole idea, and which is really fun. It's a great group. Because people's stories were so different, and they were many of us told life stories and life lessons that we learned along the way. The checking in was more about staying in the mindset of sort of success, of growth, of moving forward, of sharing ideas, really for the book's promotion. But it still always came around to creating a new voice for women who are in this age group, and to be on the screen with, 20, 30 women who are all contributing, who all had ideas, and they're from all different backgrounds, was really, really inspiring. And everybody wrote differently, and everybody wrote at different paces. Literally mine was, I had 3. I did one on Wednesday, one on Thursday, one on Friday.
Amazing. That's really great.
They're short. I mean, they're short, but still, that's how I write my best. Yeah.
That's great. Did you find some common challenges or commentary or common themes that emerged from these women's stories that you could then say, okay, here's some commonalities that I can extrapolate to myself that other women can extrapolate to themselves?
Yeah, we didn't share that much about our individual stories. Like we kind of hinted at them just a little bit, but they were really held close, everybody, just their own ideas, because the ideas are bubbling up. And I think as ideas are bubbling up, we're a little cautious about sharing them. We're probably pretty protective of them. And I think part of that is, as a writer, I'm not ready for comments on what I'm doing, because if I have comments on what I'm doing, it will probably squash my creative process. And so for me, it was more that we just stay in this kind of bubble, kind of excitement of creating a space for women over 60 to share their voices.
So what's coming up for me is we're living at an age where the younger generation looks at the older generation and says, oh, you're no longer relevant, or you don't know how this is done. But at the same time, they are not very happy that they don't have the opportunities and the benefits of that older generation. There is so much give and take and support and collaboration needed for us to navigate the present so that we can build a better future. How do you see this happening, and what is the best way? What advice do you have for older women, our age, the wiser women, the experienced women, on how to show up to remain relevant for the young people and inspire them instead of looking at ourselves and saying we're old and we're irrelevant?
Yeah, I think it's a really great point. I think it's up to us to reach back to the younger generation ourselves. Um, I I'll use my own daughter as an example. So she's turning 30 this year. I had her late. I had her when I was 42. So I was very obviously the older mom at the playground. She did tell me, you never stop coloring your hair. I think she was like 9 or something when she said that. And then one day she said, she was a junior, I think, in high school. And she said, and I love this, and I like to pass this idea along. She said, I just realized that when I graduate high school, you're going to be 60. I said, do you think I didn't do the math? And then she said, this is the absolute gift that she gave me. She said, I used to think 60 was old, but you're good. And that was a young person saying, I have this preconceived idea about what age means. And actually, I'm finding out at that age, she's 16, she's discovering that actually 60 is someone who's active and vibrant, So I think for us, I mean, that was a great gift for me and a motivator to continue to make that connection back, because I had my own ideas when I was her age about people who were over 40, and I think for us to make ourselves relevant by connecting with the younger generation as well.
That's really a great point, that instead of just viewing yourself as old and decrepit, that view yourself that I have something to offer, but I also want to reach back and gain knowledge from younger generations. And so by cross-pollinating and exchanging ideas, both of them become stronger. I'm wondering if you are still in the coaching field where you're dealing individually or dealing with groups of women. And if so, what are some of the common hindrances that women have toward themselves and wanting to, step forward or create a new chapter in their own lives?
Yeah, thanks. So yes, I am. I do work specifically with women over 60, both individually and in groups. And the common is circling back to the idea of language, that I will stop them quickly because they don't hear themselves saying it. And there's a lot of, and the thing that maybe isn't said oftentimes is the word I can't. And this, of course, could apply to any generation. But there is this kind of built-in mechanism that says, come a certain age, you can't. Or if I look at couples, you know, that idea, aren't they cute? You know, they're in their 80s and they're still so in love. And I'm thinking, love in your 80s is the same as when you're in your 40s or 30s. It's no more cute. You know, it's not an anomaly. It's a real thing, you know, and to make that part of our everyday lives, our relationships, our love lives, you know, to just keep encouraging that. I hear a lot of women say, to speaking of relationships, I really don't need another relationship at this point in my life. And what they're really saying is, I don't think I can find anybody. And that's just not true. But it's a belief that we have because we feel that we're not, you know, fill in the blank, you know, enough, you know, at a certain age. So that comes up quite frequently. How we view ourselves physically is a very big thing, you know, whether we're, you know, it's the wrinkles or we put on a few pounds or whatever it is, you know, but it's all about how we look back at ourselves. We look in the mirror and we groan, you know. I've trained myself out of that one, but I think it's really, really imperative to look in the mirror and say, hi, beautiful, to train yourself to do that, just until you believe it. Just keep doing it until you believe it, because it's true.
I actually appreciate you saying that, Cindy, because my whole personal approach is I'm 56, but my whole personal approach is I'm young and vibrant, and that 9-year-old is still inside of me, and I'm going to keep her alive.
Absolutely.
And when I show up that way, kids think that I am their age. Children who are 9 to 13 want to run and play with me. And I am everybody's buddy, but they don't stop to think that I'm as old as their grandma, right?
Right.
And so how we show up and the joy and the vibrancy with we show up trumps the physical appearance. And I will go out on a limb and say the trend of older men getting younger women is shifting, and younger men are preferring older women. So the societal norms of what's attractive and what makes for a successful relationship is also changing. What are your thoughts on that?
I think it's wonderful. I think it's wonderful. Yes, there is that stereotypical, you know, men going for only for younger women, and those complaints are still out there for sure. But there is that trend of the opposite, of men seeking out older women. And there are men available around that same sort of age group, whatever the age discrepancy is. Sometimes it's small and sometimes it's larger. But I think to open up to all ideas, and for me, it's helping women to open up to all ideas. I mean, Bob and I met at the age of 53 at a seminar, and we turned out to be the exact same age, literally like 8 days apart, as it turned out. But it was a great example. I mean, Bob had been divorced for a bit, and I was widowed, and we'd been on our own. And it was a great example of that there is love out there. There is the person that you seek is seeking you if you are open to it.
That's really beautiful. You know, with every interview, we always say the time flies by, and this morning is no different. But we definitely want the women out there, or men, to know how they can get a hold of you. So please tell us how they can get a hold of you. And if you have a couple, one or two golden nuggets that you want to share with women, and before Cass wraps it up.
Great, thank you. So to reach me would be one through my website, which is soaringafter60.com. And there's a contact page on there. You can find me on Facebook, Cindy McKee. You can message me through there. Instagram, Cindy and Bob McKee. We're in there together as one account. And any of those avenues are an easy way to get a hold of me. I have just starting a new group, a Facebook group called Soaring After 60. And you have to message me. It's a private group, so you have to message me privately, and I will get you in order to join. My goal for this group is that, and it's for women, so women invite other women. We sort of create a whole network of known people to support each other. So I'm excited about that. So that brings me to the one nugget, and that is we cannot isolate. We absolutely must reach out to other men and women, but especially women supporting women. We're there to help each other. We're there to help each other grow. And it's so important at this stage to actually grow our circle of support and friendships.
Thank you so much, Cindy. I have absolutely been delighted to have this conversation, where this conversation went, and it is so timely and so appropriate. So appreciate you being open and bringing that joy and vibrancy into this conversation. We're not growing old, we're wiser, we're young at heart, and we are still seeking new experiences. So to me, that is the takeaway. And to our audience out there, remember, age is just a number. We are what we believe. And if you embrace your life with joy to live your purpose, it doesn't matter. Everything else will fall into place. So go out there and live with your power in your element and embrace every ounce of joy and vibrancy you have. And that is how you're going to make your life happy. And you're going to continue to build a sisterhood that is going to strengthen your life, because the quality of a life for a woman is 100% predicated on the joy and support of her sisterhood. Unlike for men, it is the joy and support of their significant other. So go out there and build a beautifully vibrant life.